This is lesson 432, the unifying power of the church. How did the church unify Europe, especially after the fall of the Roman Empire? And we got some key concepts of the unifying power of the church. For example, we're going back to monotheism. Got to keep in mind what that is, along with theocracy, maybe even. Also, this concept called the sacraments or the holy sacraments. What are those? What is a monastery? What do we mean when we call something Gothic? And what is the truce of God? In the Middle Ages, the church was the glue, pretty much the only glue, that held Europe together. It held Europe together spiritually, politically, intellectually, culturally, and economically. So let's explore the various ways in which the church held Europe together. The church, as I said, unified Europe spiritually. Almost everyone in Europe had a common faith in one religion. Christianity, as we know, is a monotheistic religion. Every Christian in Europe followed the same God, the same message. All Christian believers held to the holy sacraments, which leads to two questions. Number one, what is a sacrament? Number two, what is grace? How did these two things help to unify Europe spiritually? Christianity taught that Christians went to heaven when they died because of one thing, and that was God's grace. Grace is basically when you receive something good that you did not earn, but somebody decides to give it to you anyway. For example, if you have a school assignment and it's late, the teacher may give you what is called a grace period. You didn't earn the grace period, right? You didn't earn that extra time to turn an assignment in late, but you got it anyway. So in the church, the grace of going to heaven was a gift from God. So the holy sacraments were channels through which Christians could receive God's grace and, in a way, almost connect with God and be touched by God. And these sacraments included things like baptism, communion, marriage, confession, and last rites. It was through the church that all Christians throughout Europe regularly participated in the sacraments to get more of God's grace. And this included everyone from the highest emperor to the lowest serf. For Christians in the Middle Ages, the sacraments were everything, and you could only get them through the church. And this made the church essential to everyone's salvation. The church also unified Europe politically. The church provided a measure of stability and security after the fall of Rome. The church exercised much power over the nobles. For example, a law called the Truce of God. The church prohibited any fighting from Wednesday evening to Monday morning. Also, religious holidays were included in that. So the Truce of God was an attempt by the church to limit private warfare between feudal lords. The Truce of God was in force all over Western Europe, and the church could excommunicate, in other words, throw out of the church any lord who violated the Truce of God. So the Truce of God left only about 80 days out of the entire year during which feudal lords could fight. Excommunication literally meant throwing someone out of the church community so that they could no longer participate in the holy sacraments, which put their salvation in danger. The church also unified Europe intellectually. The church was Europe's center of learning. Monasteries were buildings populated by communities of monks living under religious vows that they had taken, and church monasteries specialized in copying many manuscripts. And they copied these because copying manuscripts was essential to spreading Christianity and keeping knowledge alive. The church also unified Europe culturally. The church was the main patron or customer of art. And as the paying customer, the church decided what art was made, what its subjects were, and how it was made. The church was only interested in religious subjects. It was often through art that the church taught the Bible to illiterate Christians. Gothic church architecture became a very popular style for churches all over Europe. The Gothic style was full of religious symbolism, and biblical themes were depicted in the stained glass windows. The church also unified Europe economically. The church was the largest landowner in Europe. The church even owned entire territories. Nobles often left land to the church when they died, hoping that it would increase their chances for salvation.